It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Wednesday, August 14th. I'm Wendy Corr, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily newsroom, brought to you by Outrider PAC. According to a new survey, 79% of Wyoming voters support freedom in education. Learn more about educational savings accounts in Wyoming at outriderpac.com. Let's start out by taking a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm going to sound like one because I'm going to tell you the same thing I've told you over the last couple of days. More showers and thunderstorms will be scattered about the state with comfortable temperatures. Watch out for some heavy rain with some of these showers and storms. Lately, the storms have been more in the south and the west. Well, they're going to be more widespread across the state today. So no matter where you are in Wyoming, an afternoon or evening thunderstorm chance is pretty good. Temperatures, again, are going to be very comfortable for the middle of August, the 70s and lower 80s. Now, we do see a warmer, drier trend developing by tomorrow and into Friday and the weekend. A few thunderstorms will be around, but not as many, and it's going to get a little bit warmer. For those of you headed to Douglas for the Wyoming State Fair, pretty comfortable temperatures here over the next couple of days, just in the 70s and 80s.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. A Virginia man allegedly stole a Yellowstone National Park heavy wrecker truck Saturday while drunk, plowed through a fence, fled on foot, and when he was caught, pretended to be a U.S. Marshal. 57-year-old Alan Rawlings Bowling has pleaded not guilty to 9 criminal charges in the U.S. District Court for Wyoming, according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland.
There were these reports that a man had tried to buy beer at the Old Faithful general store and his card was declined, and he goes out and he allegedly steals this heavy wrecker that Yellowstone service workers use and took off, going the wrong way down one-way roads and off-roading, crashing through a fence that's property of the federal government. So they chased him through bison territory, which, bison sightings are frequent in that area. So that adds a whole other element to a normal crime scene.
If convicted, Bowling faces a potential maximum of 4.5 years in jail and $45,000 in fines if convicted on all counts. About 40 people crowded into a dim basement room in the Laramie County Courthouse Tuesday afternoon to watch the county clerk test voting machines for the second time in 8 days. A second test of Laramie County's vote tallying equipment was performed at the request of the Laramie County Republican Party, which filed a complaint with the local district attorney over the first test to certify the voting machines August 5th. Politics reporter Leo Wolfson said the second test ran smoothly.
The test was held in the basement of the Laramie County Courthouse. There was about 40 people who showed up to watch. Everything appeared to go rather smoothly. I spoke to Laramie County GOP committee man Dallas Terrell, and he said it really eased his concerns and he feels fully confident in the voting machines for the upcoming elections. This was a result of a first test on the voting machines that did not go accordingly as they would have liked.
Responding to the lawsuit last week, Laramie County Clerk Deborah Lee called it an effort to disrupt the current primary election and force her office to provide alternative means for counting ballots. Passengers aboard an Alaska Airlines flight bound for Jackson Hole were miffed last week after the pilot explained over the intercom that he could not land the plane at their destination. Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols reports that the pilot instead diverted the flight to Salt Lake City because he wasn't qualified to land the plane in Jackson.
It appears to be weather related. He didn't have enough hours in that particular aircraft, I think, at a complex airport to land in. The weather conditions were not ideal. And I think when they took off, they were hoping for better weather and he just didn't feel comfortable. Bottom line, it underscores the integrity built into the airline industry. Pilots are not hotshots. They're not aces. If they don't feel comfortable with the landing, take a 40-minute flight to Salt Lake, divert, get a pilot who is qualified to land.
Once at Salt Lake, passengers reportedly remained on board about 90 minutes until a replacement pilot could be found. The flight then continued on to Jackson Hole, landing about 3 hours later than planned. I'll be back in just 15 seconds with more news.
Your attention is precious. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming works hard to make navigating your healthcare easier. Because having the right health insurance means not having to think about it, letting you focus on you. That's the benefit of Blue.
Uranium Energy Corporation, which had mothballed its uranium mining operations in Wyoming in a care and maintenance status nearly a decade ago, is the second major uranium producer in the state to restart mining and processing of the critical ore. The Corpus Christi, Texas-based company announced Tuesday that it restarted its past producing Christensen Ranch in situ recovery operations in Wyoming, where it's currently permitted to mine 2.5 million pounds of uranium annually, according to energy reporter Pat Mayo.
We're the second company here in the state of Wyoming to have resumed or restarted or in various stages of starting up production of uranium in the state of Wyoming. The other one is Energy in the Red Desert. And there's a third one probably going to be starting up here shortly too, called Strata, which is owned by Peninsula Energy out of Australia.
Uranium Energy's first shipment of yellowcake is expected to happen in November or December. A South Dakota ranch couple is fighting federal indictments served to them by a U.S. Forest Service agent who allegedly showed up unannounced on their front steps, armed and in tactical gear. Charles Maud and his wife Heather, who's a Wyoming native, were served with separate federal grand jury indictments for alleged theft of government property. According to Outdoors reporter Mark Hines, the government claims the fence put up by the ranchers is over a boundary with federal grasslands.
They first got notice, I think, back in March that they put a no hunting sign on their fence line. Somebody complained about it. The Forest Service said, well, that's public land. You have to take the sign down. So they went ahead and did that. And then they met with the district ranger about possibly having to resurvey the line so they could get a really crystal clear picture of where the boundaries were between the private property and the National Grasslands property. And they thought everything was settled by then. And then in June, Forest Service agent in full tactical gear, armed, shows up on their front steps.
The Maud's South Dakota ranch is a direct-to-consumer beef and pork operation, and the meat is processed in Sheridan. And on Monday, 108-year-old Hazel Bomberger sat on the edge of a lounge chair that workers at the Peaceful Pines Senior Living Center in Fort Pierce, South Dakota, had dragged out to her front porch. A couple of dozen bikers, friends, and family came to the Rally to Hazel, a special drive-by motorcycle rally held just for South Dakota's oldest living woman. Justin George, who covered the Sturgis rally for Cowboy State Daily, says Baumberger is possibly the last living person to have attended the first Sturgis motorcycle rally in 1938.
She was there when it was called the Black Hills Motor Classic. She remembers about 5 to 9 motorcycles that were up there. They were competing in skills contests, things like that. And then since then, she's attended several of them over the years. Now, the last time she went apparently was when she was 99, which is pretty remarkable considering.
Peaceful Pines Executive Director Heather Janes, who organized the Rally to Hazel, said the spunky lady loved hearing those motorcycles roar. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the Daily Newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.